Creating pain and hurting each other makes me angry.
I would love healing with Meri. I would love healing with... I wanted to apologize with all my heart. I said I didn't love you. That wasn't true.
It almost feels like a cruel joke when you see it with your own eyes. Kody Brown sitting proudly in front of a massive gold-framed painting, 6 feet across, of himself kissing Robyn, a so-called legacy piece that reportedly cost upwards of $25,000. The same man who once sat on national television railing about money, claiming his wives were draining him financially, fighting over Coyote Pass, and demanding sacrifice from everyone else. He quietly poured what could have been the down payment on a house into a shrine to his relationship with Robyn. The painting isn't just big, it's insulting. It's a monument to a love story that was never lived in isolation. When that proposal photo was taken, he still had 3 other wives. One was even pregnant at the time. Yet the way the artist described it, you'd think it was a pure fairy tale romance between 2 soulmates who had no baggage, no history, no shared sacrifices with anyone else. Kody stood there with his expensive portrait, holding it up as proof of devotion, while the rest of his family splintered into pieces. That's the irony that makes fans' blood boil. Kody once told the world he was done with polygamy. He said Robyn was the only woman he truly loved, that the other marriages were mistakes or lies he had to tell himself. And yet, as we've now seen, he isn't done. He's been entertaining the idea of bringing new wives into the picture. Suddenly, the man who swore off plural marriage forever is back on the hunt, and Robyn is the one left fuming. Can you imagine how shocking that must feel for her? For over a decade, Robyn sat in the role of the legal wife, the favorite, the safe one. She was the woman Kody defended fiercely, the one he claimed was his destiny. She got the security, the money, the public acknowledgement. Christine, Janelle, and Meri, they got excuses, cold shoulders, and event. Well, out the door. Robyn got the ring, the house, and even the portrait. But now she's facing the same reality the other women already knew. Kody's loyalty doesn't last. What makes this even more gripping is how quickly his words lose meaning. One season, he's swearing he'll never practice polygamy again. The next, he's on camera entertaining women online, floating the idea of another wife, and looking for the next favorite. And all of this plays out in front of that garish $25,000 painting, a symbol of ego and vanity that no one else in the world would ever want to buy or hang in their home. Hi friends, my name is Sarah, and welcome back to TLC's Sister Wives Daily. If you love pulling apart the drama of this family, seeing the truth behind the spin, and calling out the hypocrisy when it's staring us in the face, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss a breakdown. And let me know in the comments what you think about this so-called love story being painted larger than life. Do you see romance, or do you see arrogance on display? This story matters because it isn't just about a painting. It's about what that painting represents. A husband who discarded 3 wives, yet still craves validation. A man who tells the world he's done with polygamy, then pivots the second his ego demands more attention. And a woman who built her entire reputation on defending the principle of plural marriage, only to recoil when she realizes she may not be enough for him after all. The cracks in Kody and Robyn's carefully built narrative are starting to show, and fans everywhere are watching to see if this is the moment the empire finally turns on itself. When we go back to the infamous tell-alls, it's hard to forget the way Kody Brown sat there, arms crossed, almost smug in his delivery, as he rewrote decades of history with a single brie. He looked directly into the camera and declared that he never truly loved Christine, Janelle, or Meri. He said he had to pretend to make those marriages work, that his heart was only ever with Robyn, and that the rest was an act, a kind of survival mechanism for the women who had spent years raising children with him, building homes, making sacrifices, and enduring the emotional roller coaster of polygamy. Hearing those words had to feel like the sharpest kind of betrayal. But for Kody, it was something else entirely. Ego protection. His marriages had collapsed in flames, and instead of owning up to his role in the breakdown, he twisted the narrative. By claiming those relationships were never real love in the first place, he gave himself an out. He didn't have to face the pain of failure. He simply rebranded those decades as practice runs, temporary placeholders, until his one true love, Robyn, arrived. But here's where the manipulation really shines through. If Kody's words were genuine, if Christine, Janelle, and Meri never mattered to him emotionally, then why has he suddenly started circling the waters of polygamy again? Why, after swearing off the lifestyle on camera, has he been entertaining the idea of courting new wives? It's a contradiction so glaring that fans can't help but call out the hypocrisy. Think about it. This is the same man who dismissed his history with Christine by saying she was more of a friend than a wife. The same man who looked at Janelle, a woman who worked herself to the bone to support the family financially, and said there was no real romance, no real passion. And of course, his words to Meri were perhaps the cruelest, claiming that intimacy with her made him feel trapped and repulsed. He stripped each of those women of the dignity of their shared past, all to elevate Robyn to queen status. Yet, just as fans were settling into the idea that Kody and Robyn would ride off into monogamous bliss, whispers started to spread that Kody was browsing online, looking for new potential wives. Suddenly, the man who swore he was done, with plural marriage, is rebranding once again. This isn't about faith anymore. It isn't about love. It's about power and ego. For Kody, polygamy has always been less about principle and more about validation. The more women orbiting around him, the more powerful he feels. And let's be honest, this is confusing for viewers. Fans have followed this family for over a decade. They've listened to Kody's fiery speeches about the beauty of plural marriage. They've also listened to him trash that same system once it no longer served him. To hear him pivot back and forth like this is exhausting and manipulative. It leaves you wondering if Kody even believes the things he says, or if his words are simply tools he uses to get through each stage of his life without admitting fault. For Robyn, it must feel like the ultimate irony. She spent years defending polygamy, crying on camera about wanting a big-picture family, only to find herself the sole wife left standing. And when she finally has what she claimed she wanted least, a monogamous marriage with Kody, he starts sniffing around for more wives. If anyone should understand the pain of this cycle, it's Robyn, yet she's spent years watching other women crumble while insisting that Kody was a wonderful husband. Now the spotlight is on her, and it's a harsh one. From a viewer's standpoint, it feels like Kody is addicted to control. The painting, the tell-alls, the constant re-spinning of his story, they all serve one purpose: to keep him at the center of attention. When his wives left, he could have chosen humility, growth, or even silence. Instead, he chose arrogance. He dismissed their histories and crowned Robyn his only queen. But when the crown started to feel too heavy, he went back to the idea of recruiting new followers for his kingdom. And that's why fans feel manipulated. It's not just about whether Kody practices polygamy or not. It's about the way he weaponizes his words to cover his tracks. He claims his old marriages never mattered, then acts like polygamy is still on the table. He tells Robyn she's his one
and only, then undermines that with whispers of new wives. He presents himself as a man of principle, yet bends those principles whenever they no longer serve his ego. At the end of the day, it's not love guiding Kody's decisions, it's pride. It's the inability to admit that he lost 3 incredible women because of his own failures. And as fans, watching him twist and turn through his own contradictions, we can't help but feel that the story isn't about faith or family anymore. It's about one man clinging desperately to relevance, even if it means burning the truth in the process. If there is one object that perfectly captures the unraveling of the Brown family, it's that infamous painting. Fans will never forget the moment it was revealed, a massive, gold-framed portrait of Kody and Robyn locked in a romantic kiss, blown up larger than life and hung like some kind of royal decree. This wasn't just a photo tucked away in a family album. No, this was an oversized shrine, a monument to their relationship, displayed front and center for everyone to see. The image itself came from a very specific and very loaded moment, Kody's proposal to Robyn. It was one of those glossy, staged photographs that captured him sweeping her into a fairy tale embrace, sealed with a kiss that was supposed to symbolize the beginning of something new. But the problem wasn't just the photo. The problem was the context. At the time that snapshot was taken, Kody was still married to 3 other women. Christine, Janelle, and Meri were still fully in the picture, raising children, carrying responsibilities, and trying to keep the family afloat. And yet here he was, immortalizing his moment with Robyn as though it stood above everything else. When the painting was revealed to the world, fans recoiled. It wasn't just the size or the gold frame or the fact that it looked like something you'd find in a palace gallery. It was the arrogance behind it. Kody didn't just want to treasure that memory privately. He wanted to announce it, loudly, boldly, shamelessly. He wanted it hanging on the wall like a reminder to everyone, this is the marriage that matters, this is the love story that counts, and let's talk about the cost. Reports pegged the price at $25,000, and that number hit viewers like a punch in the gut. Why? Because during that same period, the family was constantly fighting about money. We watched entire seasons where the Browns were scrambling over Coyote Pass, arguing about whether they could afford to build houses, debating who was paying what bills, and stressing about the financial strain on the children. Christine spoke repeatedly about the sacrifices she made for the family. Janelle carried the bulk of the financial burden for years, and Meri even poured her own money into investments. Yet while all of that was happening, Kody somehow managed to carve out tens of thousands of dollars for a vanity project. It's hard not to feel the sting of hypocrisy. He chastised Christine for not being committed enough, lectured Janelle about budgeting and sacrifices, and even accused Meri of being selfish when she wanted her own bed and breakfast. But here he was, funneling money into a giant monument to himself and Robyn. If you strip away the excuses, what you're left with is a man so consumed with his own ego that he literally turned it into wall art, and symbolically, the painting speaks volumes. It isn't just a picture, it's a declaration. By choosing that photo, from that proposal, Kody placed Robyn above every other wife. He enshrined their beginning in gold, while the stories he shared with Christine, Janelle, and Meri were dismissed as meaningless. It's not just that he played favorites, it's that he celebrated those favorites in a way that diminished everyone else. For the other wives, it had to feel like a gut punch, a reminder that their decades of sacrifice and loyalty were worth less than Robyn's single photograph. That painting is almost grotesque in its symbolism. It's not about love, it's about arrogance. It's about Kody's obsession with Robyn and his need to prove, both to the world and to himself, that she was the prize he had always been searching for. And it's about control. When you hang a portrait like that in your home, you're telling everyone who walks through the door exactly where your priorities lie. It's a way of rewriting the story without ever speaking a word, and let's not ignore the timing. When the painting came into the picture, the family was already unraveling. Christine was voicing her pain and frustration, Janelle was distancing herself emotionally, and Meri was clinging to the last scraps of a marriage that had been hollowed out for years. Instead of addressing the cracks in his relationships, instead of acknowledging the pain his wives were carrying, Kody doubled down on showcasing his love for Robyn. It was as though he wanted to rub salt in the wound. Look at how happy I am with her, look at how complete I am now that I have Robyn. For fans, that's why the painting still lingers in memory. It's not just a decoration. It's a symbol of everything that went wrong. It represents the favoritism that tore the family apart, the selfish spending that undermined their financial security, and the sheer arrogance of a man who chose to glorify his own love story while his other relationships were collapsing, and on a deeper emotional level, it represents Kody's complete disregard for the suffering of others. Christine spent years being told her feelings weren't valid. Janelle was constantly pressured to put the family above herself. Meri was emotionally abandoned long before the official split. And while these women endured that pain, Kody chose to commission a monument that celebrated the very relationship that overshadowed and undermined them. When you look at that painting, you don't just see a picture of Kody and Robyn. You see the arrogance of a man who believed he could rewrite history in gold. You see the wounds of wives who were told they didn't matter. You see the hypocrisy of financial choices that hurt the family's future. And you see the obsession of a man who, even as his world crumbled, chose vanity over humility, pride over accountability. That painting isn't just art. It's the purest expression of who Kody Brown is, a man who will spend thousands to glorify his own ego, even as the people around him are left hurting, abandoned, and silenced. For over a decade, Robyn Brown has lived in a world the other sister wives could only dream of. When she entered the family, she was treated not as an equal partner, but as the prize. Kody made her the legal wife, shifting his marriage status away from Meri, who had once been the cornerstone of his polygamous journey. That one move alone gave Robyn a level of security no other wife had. Add to that the financial resources Kody funneled her way, the big house, the constant attention, and the clear favoritism, and you start to see how cushioned Robyn's position really was. While Christine was cooking meals for 13 kids in cramped kitchens, while Janelle was scraping to make ends meet and build something on Coyote Pass, and while Meri was crying on camera about feeling rejected and lonely, Robyn sat in the safety of being chosen. She had what the others longed for, emotional security from Kody. Or so it seemed, but now, with Kody floating the idea of adding another wife, Robyn may finally be tasting the very medicine she defended for years. It's almost poetic, in a bitter way. Because remember, Robyn has always been the one who spoke about the principle with almost missionary zeal. She framed plural marriage as sacred, eternal, a spiritual responsibility that was worth all the tears, jealousy, and pain. Over and over again, she positioned herself as the faithful one, the believer who could rise above her own insecurities in order to live this higher calling. And yet, did you see her face when Kody suggested he wasn't really done with polygamy? When the words left his mouth about considering other women, Robyn's expression told the whole story. It wasn't joy, it wasn't openness to God's plan. It was fear. It was frustration. It was the look of a woman who suddenly realized the castle she thought she was living in might just be a house of cards. This moment feels like the first true wake-up call for Robyn. For years, she benefited from the structure of plural marriage without carrying the burdens that Christine, Janelle, and Meri bore for decades. She didn't have to fight for scraps of Kody's attention. She didn't have to stretch $1 while he was off wooing someone else. She didn't have to justify her worth in the shadow of another wife. She was the special one, the exception. But now she's standing on the edge of realizing she may not be the exception forever, and let's be honest, isn't there something ironic, even hypocritical, in her reaction? Robyn has spent years defending the lifestyle, insisting that the other wives should just be stronger, more faithful, more committed. She framed their complaints as weakness, even as she reaped the benefits of their sacrifice. So how can she now grimace and sulk at the very idea of another woman entering the picture? Where is that faith she always preached? Where is that eternal family she claimed to be protecting? It almost feels like the universe is handing Robyn the exact lesson the other wives have been trying to teach her all along. Because when Christine finally reached her breaking point, when Janelle stood her ground, when Meri broke down in tears about being left behind, Robyn could always retreat into the safety of her favored status. But now she's experiencing that gut punch of realizing you are not enough for Kody Brown. That no matter how much you give, no matter how much you sacrifice, he's always looking for the next shiny thing to feed his ego, and this is where fans can't help but lean in with a bit of gossip-fueled satisfaction. Because really, isn't this the first time Robyn is being forced to live the reality she helped normalize? For years, she told the others to stick it out, to swallow their jealousy, to stay loyal for the sake of their eternal family. But what happens when it's her turn? When she has to stare at the possibility of another woman walking into her carefully curated life, does she finally understand what the others felt? The hypocrisy is glaring. If Robyn resists, she undermines everything she said about her faith and her commitment to plural marriage. She would essentially be admitting that she never really believed in the principle itself, she only believed in it when she was the sole beneficiary. And fans are catching on to that. Social media is buzzing with comments pointing out how quickly Robyn's tone changes when polygamy stops serving her interests. This could be the breaking point not just for her relationship with Kody, but for the image she spent so long protecting. Robyn has always been careful, almost calculated, in how she presents herself, the faithful wife, the devoted mother, the one who always tries to do the right thing. But this wake-up call cracks that facade wide open. Because if she truly believed in the principle, she wouldn't be panicking at the thought of another wife, she'd be welcoming it as part of God's plan. Instead, what we're seeing is raw human fear. The same fear Christine felt when Kody spent all his time at Robyn's house. The same fear Janelle felt when she had to raise her kids while her husband checked out emotionally. The same fear Meri lived with for years as she slowly lost every ounce of Kody's affection. Robyn is now walking in their shoes. And maybe for the first time, she understands why they walked away. And that, right there, is the delicious twist in this story. Because if Robyn can't handle plural marriage when it doesn't center her, then everything she's ever said about faith, loyalty, and eternal families crumbles into dust. Fans aren't just watching a marriage unravel, they're watching a belief system collapse under the weight of its own hypocrisy. For years, Kody Brown built his image around one claim, that polygamy was sacred, God's plan, and worth every sacrifice. But then, in the aftermath of Christine's bold departure, Janelle's quiet independence, and Meri's fading presence, Kody changed his tune. Suddenly, the man who once demanded loyalty to the principle declared he was done with polygamy forever. He told cameras, and Robyn, that she was his one and only. His words dripped with drama, as if he had finally chosen monogamy out of love, not convenience. But now, just months later, we see him shifting again, floating the idea of bringing in another wife, as if his vows to Robyn never really mattered. This isn't about faith. It's not about the eternal principle. It's about ego. It's about control. And fans are watching in disbelief as his carefully spun narrative collapses right in front of him, because let's be honest, hasn't this always been Kody's pattern? When Christine grew strong enough to walk away, he rewrote the story to paint her as selfish, rebellious, unwilling to live the higher law. When Meri's catfishing scandal exploded, he used it as proof that she was no longer worthy of his love, discarding her while pretending it was her choice. When Janelle asserted her independence, he turned cold, dismissing her devotion and making it clear that her usefulness to him had expired. And now, after all the dust has settled, he turns his attention to Robyn, first making her feel special, then dangling the threat of another wife to destabilize her. It's a chilling pattern if you step back and look. Kody doesn't hold to principles, he bends them to suit his needs. He doesn't treasure his wives, he values their utility. When they serve his ego, they're rewarded. When they resist, they're discarded. Christine provided warmth, loyalty, and years of child-rearing. Once she demanded reciprocity, she was pushed out. Meri offered legal legitimacy and a foundation for his image. Once that was no longer necessary, she was pushed to the margins. Janelle was the financial workhorse, carrying much of the family's burden. Once she claimed her independence, she was no longer praised but punished. And Robyn, the ultimate symbol of his power, may now be realizing that even she is not immune to the cycle. That's why his sudden pivot back toward the idea of polygamy feels less like faith and more like desperation. With the spotlight on the Browns dimming, with his narrative of eternal family lying in ruins, Kody needs something new to reassert his control and grab attention. What better way than to suggest he's open to another wife? It creates drama, it unsettles Robyn, and it keeps him in the center of the story. But here's the problem, fans aren't buying it anymore. The curtain has been pulled back too many times. We've seen the contradictions, the hypocrisies, the way his story shifts depending on who's standing by his side. He once called Christine a coward for leaving, then admitted he never loved her. He once insisted Meri was part of the family forever, then said he had no relationship with her at all. He once promised Robyn she was the last, the final, the one true wife, and now even she is being forced to question his word. The emotional weight of all this is staggering. Think about the women who gave decades of their lives to this man, only to be discarded once their usefulness ran out. Christine endured years of neglect, cooking meals for children while Kody courted Robyn. Meri sacrificed her legal status, only to watch him hand it over to another woman. Janelle carried the financial load, only to be blamed for the family's struggles. And now Robyn, after years of living in privilege, may be realizing that her turn has come, that even her role as the favorite isn't guaranteed. This isn't the story of a man of faith. It's the story of a man clinging to control. Polygamy was never about building a spiritual empire. It was about feeding Kody's ego, keeping him at the center of multiple women's lives, always being the one with power and choice. And now, as those women walk away, that power shrinks. Suggesting another wife isn't about honoring God, it's about keeping himself relevant, proving that he can still command loyalty, that he can still be desired, but in doing so, Kody has exposed the hollow core of his narrative. Because how can anyone take his words seriously when they change with the wind? How can he preach about eternal family when every vow he's made has been broken? How can he demand loyalty from women when he has shown so little in return? Fans aren't just angry, they're heartbroken. For years, they watched these women struggle, hoping for growth, hoping for healing. Instead, they've seen the same cycle repeat: manipulation, favoritism, rejection. Kody's collapse isn't just about failed marriages. It's about the collapse of the entire story he's been telling since the cameras started rolling, and maybe that's the biggest revelation of all. Kody Brown didn't lose his family because of outside forces, or catfishing scandals, or rebellious wives. He lost his family because his own narrative was never built on truth. It was built on control, ego, and a belief that he would always be the one holding the power. But as Christine, Janelle, and Meri proved, and as Robyn may now be learning, that power was never eternal. It was borrowed, and now it's gone. The collapse of Kody's narrative is more than just the end of Sister Wives as we knew it. It's the exposure of a man who, when stripped of his wife's devotion, has nothing left to stand on but his own contradictions. And in that emptiness, fans finally see the truth: Kody Brown was never the man of faith he claimed to be. He was the man of control. And now, even that is slipping away, that if Kody really does move forward with bringing in a new wife, the person with the most to lose isn't Meri, Janelle, or Christine. They've already freed themselves. It's Robyn. For years, she has been Kody's unquestioned number one, the legal wife, the favored partner, the woman he repeatedly called his soulmate, while dismissing the others as placeholders. She's enjoyed a level of security, financial and emotional, that the other women never had. But the moment Kody starts eyeing another wife, that entire foundation begins to crack. Let's be clear, Robyn has built her entire identity on being the loyal, faithful wife who supports polygamy no matter what. She's preached about the principle, cried about her testimony of plural marriage, and publicly carried the banner of what this lifestyle is supposed to stand for. She was never supposed to be the jealous wife. She was never supposed to resent Kody's attention going elsewhere. That role, historically, was Christine's, or Meri's, or Janelle's. But now, for the very first time, Robyn may actually be forced to sit in that exact same uncomfortable chair, and the irony is almost too heavy to ignore. Think about the timing. For more than a decade, Robyn had Kody all to herself in practice, if not in theory. He spent nights with her, gave her children his full emotional energy, and defended her relentlessly in public. Even as Christine walked away, even as Janelle pulled her finances out, even as Meri was humiliated over and over again, Robyn stayed untouched. She wasn't losing anything. In fact, she gained. She inherited the whole man. She got the legal marriage, the family resources, and the public title of being the last wife standing. But here's the problem with climbing to the top of a mountain that's built on other women's pain: eventually, the mountain shifts. Kody doesn't stay loyal, not really. He thrives on control, on novelty, on being the center of a rotating system of adoration. And if he's truly looking at new wives, it means Robyn is about to experience what she always told the other wives to pray through. This is where the hypocrisy becomes unavoidable. How can Robyn preach about the beauty of sharing a husband when suddenly, she's the one being asked to share How can she point fingers at Christine for not being strong enough for polygamy, if her own heart crumbles at the thought of Kody courting another woman? It's almost like the script flips right in front of us, and for fans who've watched Robyn defend every painful choice Kody made, there's a sense of poetic justice here, and let's not forget about her kids. Robyn has 5 children, all of whom were raised in an environment where their mom was clearly the priority. They've seen their dad devote the majority of his energy to their household, unlike the other Brown kids who were often left to fend for themselves emotionally. What happens when dad suddenly divides that attention again? What happens when a new woman enters the picture, bringing new kids, new dynamics, and new competition for Kody's time and resources? Robyn's children might finally taste the instability and neglect the other Brown kids lived with for decades, and that's a storm Robyn may not be able to shield them from. Financially, this shift could be devastating too. Kody already burned through so much money chasing Coyote Pass, juggling debts, and spending on luxuries like that infamous $25,000 painting. If another wife is added to the equation, how much thinner will the money stretch? For years, Robyn's household has enjoyed stability while the other wives worried about rent, groceries, and medical bills. But suddenly, Robyn could find herself fighting for the very security she once took for granted. Fans are watching this unfold with an almost electric energy, because it feels like karma. For so long, Robyn has been painted as the protected one, the woman who got everything while the others were stripped bare. But now, she may finally walk through the fire she insisted the others endure. And to many viewers, that feels like justice, a cycle coming full circle. The truth is, Kody's pattern is glaring. He discards wives when they no longer serve his ego. He rewrites history to justify the discard, claiming he never loved them, that they were always the problem, that he was destined for someone better. Robyn has been safe from that narrative only because she was still new, still adored, still useful in his story. But if he's seeking more wives, then she's no longer the finale, she's just another chapter. And if Kody can rewrite his marriages to Christine, Janelle, and Meri as mistakes, what's to stop him from one day rewriting his marriage to Robyn in the same cruel way? That's the chilling part, and that's why this moment matters so much. Robyn isn't just dealing with jealousy or insecurity, she's standing on the edge of the very cliff she helped push the other women over. If she resists, she destroys the entire persona she's built as the devout polygamist. If she accepts, she has to live with the same gut-wrenching pain she once minimized in the others. Either way, the mask slips, and maybe that's why fans are so riveted right now. Because for the first time, Robyn is not above the chaos. She is in it. She may finally feel what it's like to be discarded, sidelined, and forced to smile through heartbreak. And whether she admits it publicly or not, that reality could shake the entire Brown family to its core. So here we are, looking at a family that once preached unity, faith, and loyalty, but now, it's nothing but fractured pieces. Turd across the desert. Kody swore up and down that Robyn was his one true love, his soulmate, the woman he was destined to be with. He rewrote history to erase Meri, Christine, and Janelle, telling fans that he was never really in love with them, that somehow all those years, all those kids, all those sacrifices, meant nothing. But the cracks are showing. Because if he truly believed in that fairy tale, if Robyn really was the end of his story, then why is he suddenly talking about new wives? It makes that expensive, ostentatious painting sting even more. Remember that $25,000 portrait he bought for Robyn? At the time, it was his ultimate declaration, his proof that she was the one who mattered most. The other wives were struggling to pay bills, Christine was questioning her place in the family, and Janelle was literally scrambling for financial survival, and meanwhile, Robyn sat with that painting as a trophy. But now, that same symbol of devotion looks cheap, almost laughable, because what good is a painting of eternal love if Kody is already chasing the next shiny new prize? And that's where the hypocrisy burns the hottest. Robyn built her reputation on defending polygamy, on insisting this lifestyle was worth every tear and sacrifice. She told Christine she just needed to pray harder, told Janelle to keep fighting for a place at the table, told Meri to wait for her turn. But now, the system she propped up, the very thing she claimed to believe in, is circling back on her. For the first time, Robyn risks losing her crown. For the first time, she may feel the sharp edge of sharing a man who no longer looks at her with the same intensity. That's the tragic irony of it all. Robyn thought she had secured the fairy tale ending, but in reality, she just stepped into the same cycle that broke everyone else before her. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Kody doesn't have a one true love. He has an ego to feed, and as long as someone is willing to give him attention, he'll take it. When that stops, he moves on. Every wife eventually learns that truth. And now it seems Robyn's turn has finally arrived. So what do you think? Is this karma coming full circle? Will Robyn finally understand what Christine, Janelle, and Meri lived through for decades? Or will she keep defending the very system that may now destroy her peace? I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Because trust me, with this family, the drama is far from over.